Are you considering divorce? Are you dealing with it now? Are you on the other side and not sure what comes next? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show with your host, Lisa C. Decker.
Welcome, everyone, to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show. I'm Lisa Decker, your host, and I am a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce, as well as the founder and the CEO of Divorce Money Matters and the sponsor of this show, DivorcetownUSA.com. And we are happy to have you here today. And I know we're going to be talking about a very important topic around socially responsible spending. But our guest, we have heard, is tied up in a meeting, and this is a live show. So we're going to switch gears for a little bit, and we're going to go with the flow because that's what live TV is all about. So what we want to talk to you about today is our Divorce Town Roadmap, because we think that it is vitally important that you have an understanding of the different ways that you can come into the process of divorce. You know, many people, when they hear the word divorce, think of hiring attorneys and lawyering up and going through the traditional litigated process where you go through discovery, which is exchanging documents back and forth, having your attorney show up for hearings at the courthouse that may need to be attended to. Sometimes they're just status hearings. But whatever it is, your lawyers are going to be there to tell the judge or the magistrate, you know, how your case is progressing. And you will at some point likely be ordered to a court mandated mediation where you and your spouse and your attorneys meet with a mediator and then are sent into separate rooms, caucused into separate rooms, and the mediator goes back and forth to work with you. Now, this is the traditional litigated process. And by the way, you hope you get it done and get to resolution on that day of mediation, because if you don't, you're likely going to be headed to court to have a judge or a jury decide your case. And, you know, most people don't understand the way that this really works, which is when you see an attorney and you engage with them, engage their services, you pay a retainer. That is a drop in the bucket. That's your first drop in the bucket. As your case continues, when the retainer is used up, you'll refill the retainer, meaning you'll give the attorney another check. And this will go on and on and on until your case is settled. The average divorce in America is about $15,000 to $25,000 per spouse. Yes, you heard me right, folks. This is something that is not explained up front. Most people have no idea the ins and outs of how this game is played in the world of divorce. And in understanding what has traditionally been the way, you can also then look for options that can work for you and your family if you choose to do so. And by the way, that $15,000 to $25,000 per spouse does not include the cost of preparing for a court trial. So before you file with the court, which is initiating a lawsuit against your spouse, before you go that road, I hope you'll take a look at the roadmap that we've created to show you that there are other options that may be far more suited for your family and help you to avoid common, costly, and permanent mistakes while saving you time, money, sanity, and the fabric of your family. So I want to start with the Put Kids First Parkway. This is an option that people can take where they start with the children's matters first. And with that, you can see a therapist, a child specialist, an attorney even, and say, we want to do the parenting plan first. Because our guest seems to be calling me. um, let me take 1 second here. Oh, they're going to have to pop in. All right. So, anyway, we are going back to the roadmap here. So if you start with that plan, then you will be able to have the parenting aspects worked out. And the reason that this is a good idea for families who have younger children is because then it takes the children out of the negotiations. You've done that part first, and you're able to now take care of the other aspects without the children being used as pawns in the negotiation. So I do like that setup, and I work with many clients who do the parenting plans first and then come and do the financials after. So you'll see the financials first freeway. And that's where folks like myself come into play as a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. We help folks to figure out the ins and outs of all the financial matters of your marital life and your separate lives, and meaning your separate property, what you owned, what you owned prior to the marriage, what you may have been gifted, what you may have inherited. And there's rules around all of that that may or may not separate it from the marital pot. But, you know, we want to make sure that you and your spouse, as a neutral party, I work as a neutral. Some of my colleagues work as advocates, meaning they work for one party only. You need to be able to understand the financial matters so that you can be able to make sound decisions. And the last part here is the amicable divorce on amicable avenue. And we want you to be able to make choices there from a legal standpoint. And that road is very important, that you work with a settlement-minded attorney, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to work in an amicable way. And I will tell you that if one of you lawyers up with an attorney who is not settlement-minded, both of you are going to be lawyering up. And now I am going to jump into our regularly scheduled program and introduce you to our guests. So last week, we talked extensively about how to invest marital funds received in a divorce and how you can make a difference and profit with sustainable investing. Well, this week, we're going to continue the theme of social responsibility and talk more about socially responsible spending. How can we buy better products for ourselves and our families and not harm the planet or even help the planet? Today, we'll be interviewing sustainable business consultant Brittany Decker. And yes, that is the same last name. Brittany is one of my daughters, and I'm happy to have her here today. And she had a meeting that ran over, a very important meeting. So we're going with the flow here, folks. Combining over a decade of experience within the nonprofit and public policy sectors, international community engagement, and sustainable business consulting, Brittany brings extensive knowledge in various arenas of sustainability. She served as the former director of sustainability with Avocado Green Brands and building the company's entire ESG program from scratch. She is also well-versed in creating high-impact projects at the foundational level, implementing ideas into action, and communicating progress to key stakeholders along the way. And I think that's what she was doing this morning. So having spent over 3 years engaging local communities in Latin America, she speaks fluent Latin, fluent Spanish, and holds Indigenous rights issues close to her heart. So, Brittany, welcome to my show. So happy you could join us today and that everything worked out for you to make it. And so, why don't you tell us first, how did you get into the sustainability field?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, I always had a very strong interest in environmental topics. My original goal was to work towards sustainable environmental policy. So I actually studied political science at school and was working in the public policy space. But after some various life events. You know, I had a pretty bad accident. I also, after that, went and traveled the world for a while, and I just saw how these issues were disproportionately affecting kind of like underrepresented people in different parts of the world. And so I was working with Avocado Mattress at the time. It was a pretty eco-conscious organization, and they needed someone. I was the first employee that they hired, believe it or not. And they needed someone to kind of move into the sustainability role. And given my background, I just jumped at that opportunity. So I've moved on since, and now I work as a consultant, but with the company Sustainable Business Consulting, and we work with some pretty big clients like AAA, Delta, Alaska Airlines, Paula's Choice, and now I get to help organizations kind of integrate sustainability into their overall operations.
I love it. You know, I've always been a sustainability advocate even before that word was around. So I'm very proud that you have chosen this line of work and the work that you're doing. So can you tell us more about the sustainability movement and why it is happening? What do you see from the front lines?
Yeah, so the sustainability movement is very much focused on, you know, how organizations are interacting with the environment, people, both internal and external, so their employees, their supply chain, but also their communities in which they operate, and how they're governing their business. So that's why this trend ESG, environmental, social, and governance, has really become front of mind for so many different organizations and investors alike. And we're seeing this increase as, you know, climate change and social inequities are being felt by communities around the world. Investors are starting to demand that their portfolio companies are acting responsibly, and consumers at the same time are equally becoming interested in how the brands that they shop with are interacting with their different stakeholders and the environment.
Okay. So what does it mean to vote with your dollars or spend your money responsibly? What does that mean to the average person who may be listening to this show live or listening to the replay after?
I mean, it really means making lifestyle decisions and engaging practices which reduce the negative impact on the planet and promote health of the people. So it's everything in terms of what you eat, what do you wear, how much waste do you produce, where do you shop, what are your transportation habits, and not buying into different trends that we see taking place right now, like fast consumerism, which is a very prominent thing in the US. And you know, you want to spend your money responsibly because essentially your dollar is like a vote, right? Like when you spend your money with an organization, you are perpetuating that organization's ability to continue doing business. It's like a literal social license to operate within our society. So if companies are taking these issues to heart and addressing them via like cultural changes within the organization and truly changing how they operate as a business in order to positively affect their employees and the environment, then they're doing right. And that's an organization that you want to support with your money.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. So what are some of the examples of these topics in the sustainability realm that a company should be addressing?
Well, like I said, we go back to that E, S, and G acronym. So on the environmental side, we're looking at everything from greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity impacts, water scarcity, chemical management, waste management, and like a whole lot of issues that fall under the environmental realm. On the social side, we're thinking about employee health, wellness, benefits, ethical supply chain sourcing. We all know that, you know, child labor, forced labor overseas is still a hot topic issue. Different philanthropic kind of initiatives, how they're interacting with the community. Are they doing donations? Are they participating in disaster relief? How, you know, are the employees out volunteering? What does that look like? And also, what's been a big issue recently is diversity, equity, and inclusion. After George Floyd, we obviously saw a huge movement around that. And then on the governance side, this is oftentimes the least understood element of sustainability, but really we're looking at stakeholder engagement. How is the company gathering feedback from the people who the business affects? You know, what does data privacy and security look like? How ethical is the business? Are they participating in public policy advocacy? Is there systems of accountability and transparency within the organization and that sort of thing?
That's a whole lot of stuff. So as a consultant coming in, you know, are there some types of measurement that you work with to look at these things? You know, are you working with only the largest? Can a small company apply these things as well? Any tips for them?
Yeah, I mean, lots of every organization can participate in this. And, you know, one of the first things we like to do is do a materiality assessment. So by doing that, we understand which of these issues are most material to the organization, or in other terms, which of these issues are most impactful and important to the organization. And then by doing an exercise like that, we can kind of work backwards to say, like, okay, out of all of these topics, these are the top 5. So what kind of strategy can we build to kind of integrate these within the organization and build out something around that? So yeah, so on the business side, there's a lot that can be done for both small and big organizations. And it's never too early to start. If you're just launching an organization, please do it now, because then you don't have to make a cultural shift later on. It's already embedded into how you operate.
And what about for those that have been around a long time? Making these cultural shifts can sometimes be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of what it is. You know, the organizations that we see most successful are the ones not just having sustainability live within its own department and having that person out trying to, you know, make changes with all the departments, but rather that each department has their own systems of accountability and goals and metrics that they track, and it really is embedded into the entire organization as a whole.
So it becomes a culture of the entire company or organization, as you say, because this can apply to nonprofits as well. It really can apply across the board, from what I'm hearing you say. May not touch every business in the same way, but you start with what is most important to you, and then you work backwards, as you say. Are there any good resources that you can mention for companies that want to get started with this, but just need to dip their toe? Or their books or websites or anything that you can recommend?
Oh, there's a lot out there. I think it depends on kind of where they want to focus, but I think our website is a really good resource just to get started. I can look it up. I honestly don't know.
Why don't you give us that website?
Sorry?
Why don't you tell us that website?
Yeah, it's sustainableconsulting.com.
Okay.
So we have a lot of resources on there, and I can send you the link. You can share it out if you do that after these calls. But yeah, there's a lot of resources on there about these different types of issues, and we can always help companies also kind of develop a roadmap to figure out, you know, where to start and where to go, because it is a lot.
It is a lot, but it's important. And how do you feel about you know, the company then promoting themselves as a green company as a part of their marketing? I mean, obviously people want to know these things, but there's also companies that are saying they're green and they're not doing all of these things. They don't have the certifications, you know, the greenwashing, just like pink washing with breast cancer. So what can you tell us about greenwashing, and how can someone know if a company really is doing the right things, or walking into a store and looking at a product and knowing whether the company has taken that perspective to heart? Do you have any tips on that, Britt?
Yeah, it's a very complex thing because sustainability is such a trend right now. There is a lot of greenwashing going on out there. So people might be saying, you know, we do this, it might be a small action, relatively speaking, but they overinflate it, or it might just be that, you know, they're making stuff up entirely. There are some different certifications and that sort of thing that consumers can look out for. All of them are representing different types of things. So B Corp is one of them, climate neutral certified. There's a whole plethora of certifications for different types of organic materials, recycled materials. There's certifications around supply chain like fair trade. There's also non-toxicity certifications like Made Safe, Okiotex, Green Guard Gold. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. There's also a lot of companies making commitments. So 1% for the planet, or RE100, which is to source 100% renewable energy by 2030. There's science-based targets that people are committing to. The problem with these certifications is that some of them are not third-party verified, and so there is always, the chance of overinflating again. There can also be very limited in scope, so they're only looking at one element of the organization rather than the company as a whole. Another trend we're seeing right now is just that there's a lot of CEOs and company leaders making commitments that by 2030 or 2050, we're going to be X, Y, and Z. But these are all an older generation, and these leaders are not going to be leading anymore by the time that these targets are due to be met. And so how are we building systems of accountability for those who are going to be stepping in their shoes and ensuring that these commitments will be met when the time comes? Overall, I think for consumers, you have to do your research. You have to, you can look out for these certifications, but really companies should be pretty transparent. They should be advertising what their goals are, what progress has been made towards them, what their current shortcomings are, and how they're planning to address them. And those are often disclosed in a sustainability or like an impact report that companies typically publish on a yearly basis. You can also look for certifications that are verified by third parties that will ensure that there is some sort of audit and accountability process that goes behind it.
What would those be? I'm sorry, I just don't want to miss that point. What kind of certifications have that audit process?
Most of them have some. So, B Corp is audited by B Lab, which is the nonprofit that runs the B Corp certification. Climate neutral is, they require a verification of the greenhouse gas footprint if the company is over a certain amount in revenue. So, and then a lot of the chain of custody certifications, meaning the certifications that are tracking the materials and those materials that have a certain claim, whether it's organic or certified recycled, those all have some sort of audit as well. So those are the ones that are tracking from throughout the entire supply chain, where this material originated from and how it ended up into being a final finished product. And companies have to prove, they have to do like they have to show like an inventory. This is the amount that we purchased. This is the amount that we sold. And the math has to kind of add up in terms of, and the material will also carry a certification, like a transaction certificate, kind of showing that how the material is moving through the supply chain. So, overall, I would say that the certifications can be trusted. I think the main thing with the certifications is like, just because a company is sourcing organic cotton doesn't mean that they're doing right by their employees within their governance practices. Like the scope of those certifications can be very limited. It's only looking at that particular material instead of like the company practices as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I can see just listening to you and the conversations that we've had, this is a field in its infancy, really, and it's only going to grow as things continue to evolve on the planet, in the workplace, and in governance in general, as people step up and demand that all these things are looked at, because it's important. We're all people of the planet. We all have a right and responsibility to make sure that our fellow human beings are being looked after. When I recycle things and then I learned that they were ending up in beaches of an island nation where the people were literally swimming in our trash, it breaks my heart, right? So we each have a voice, and it's great to know, Brittany, that there are companies like yours that are helping larger corporations now change their footprint on the planet, because there are experts like yourself helping them to do that. And folks, when you're getting divorced, every dollar matters, and you can make sure that you're taking the dollars that you invest and the dollars that you spend and use them wisely for yourself and for the people of the planet and the planet itself as well. And so, Brittany, thank you for getting here today. We're glad you were able to get off of your other meeting in time for the show. And we have some, anything you want to close out with here before we show some materials to our audience?
I don't think so.
Can you give us that website one more time, please?
Yeah, so sustainable biz consulting.com.
All right. And you can reach Brittany through that site, I imagine, if anybody has any follow-up questions or is interested in looking at that for their own company. Thank you again, Britt. And now we're going to bring up the Divorcetown Roadmap, which I was talking about a bit earlier, and flip things around here. So I'm going to just remind folks that this is a free gift for you at Divorcetown USA. What we're trying to do, as I mentioned earlier, is give you different options on how to get through Divorcetown, how to get through your divorce in a better, saner, savvier, money-saving way without destroying the fabric of your family. We want to keep you away from Duke It Out Drive and Bigger Bucks Boulevard, which is traditional litigation. We want you to skip that place. The next slide will show you that at divorcemoneymatters.com, you can download my free divorce financial fitness kit that I created for you. And this has an ebook that will explain all of your options, and also a working Excel spreadsheet that you can check off every document you should start to gather when you are contemplating or going through divorce so that nothing gets missed. And if you are thinking of hiring an attorney, a list of 50 must-ask questions, because there are things that you don't know, and you want to make sure that you are understanding what you're getting into. And all of that is, again, available for free at divorcemoneymatters.com. We also sponsor a virtual divorce help and hope support group through meetup.com. It meets once or twice a month via Zoom, and meeting dates and times are always posted on Divorcetown USA in the events section. These meetings are gold. We have members, we have folks joining us from all over the country. These are free, and you can come and ask questions of experts or just listen to other people going through the process and get the support that you need. Divorce is not a time to do it alone or be alone. So reach out. You can do this right from the comfort of your own home, and you can do it in privacy. But I encourage you to check out our support group meetings. They are wonderful. And so next week, we're going to talk more about the new independent you and how to travel again, be it solo or in a group. We're going to interview Emer Coughlin. She is the owner of Celtic Travels, as she helps us create a personal wander list. Ooh, I can't wait to hear about this one. This is an online tool. You won't want to miss this. So, we hope you've found this episode of Divorce Do's and Don'ts helpful, and we look forward to seeing you all next week and every week as we continue improving the way the world divorces, one family at a time.